here at GitLab, and I'm focused on the CI/CD section of GitLab, and I'm looking forward to answering your questions around what the UX research team is up to. And we've got a link in the agenda to the slide deck that kind of recaps what we've been working very hard on the last couple of months. And I see Tao has a question here. You want to talk about it?
Yes. So regarding the GitLab first look, which is on slide 5, is the data about the joiners, which really is our pool of research panel volunteers, is that data available somewhere for GitLab team members to look at? Because what I'm thinking about is it would be nice to know if there's profiles of users that would even be out there for what we would want to survey or interview for.
Right. And this question has come up a couple of times, Tao, from other product managers, and they've asked me. And basically, we have data on people who've signed up to First Look, which is our user database, so we can talk to people for user research. It's separate than Salesforce. It has different information than Salesforce has, and it's in a different format too. So there's not like a way that you can get in and easily run like a Salesforce report to find different parameters on things. So because of that, we've got our wonderful research ops lady, Emily, and what you can do is put a research request in to Emily and let her know who you're looking for. And it would even be better if you could fill out one of those screener templates that we have in Google Docs to let her understand, like, who are you looking to talk with, what are their parameters that you're looking for, how many of each kind of person do you need, and then she can get into the database and search around and see if we have the right number of people for you. Because even if we have 2 people, that may not be enough depending on what kind of research you want to accomplish. So she could help you work on that. And then she also has some wonderful ideas of how to get in touch with other people who do meet your criteria. So she'd be the perfect person to do that.
Okay, it's just there's only one of Emily and many of us.
Yes. Soon there'll be hopefully 2 more of Emily's in the next coming year. So yeah, I totally get that. And she's really good at her time management though for all the projects that she's on as well. So don't hesitate to reach out to her. It's better for her to know who she needs to help so she can manage all of that.
Agree. My question was stemming from if there was a way we can self-help and then kind of tweak our requests so that it makes it a little easier for Emily to coordinate those. But that's thanks for your answer.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So right now that's how we're going to handle it.
Okay.
Cool. Who else has a question for us today or tonight, this afternoon, wherever you are?
It's great to read the feedback from GitLab commit in issue 912. What do you think of the feedback, and what is our follow-up on that feedback?
I haven't looked at issue 192, so what is the feedback that they're saying? I know Emily and Catherine had a great time, and they were able to sign up a whole bunch of people for our First Look database and conduct on-site customer conversations with people.
Yeah, I could jump in. Sorry, I added that feedback issue. Hi, everyone. I'm Catherine. I'm the UX researcher on the team. So I think a lot of the feedback we received is very interesting. So it was diverse different topics, but there were some areas that came up around training for people who are non-developers, who kind of need a better sense of how to use GitLab. And I think that aligned with some of the things that the growth team is already working on related to onboarding. And so I think that's a natural way to kind of introduce more of that kind of when people are first starting to use GitLab, give them some learning materials, training, things like that, help them find their way around the product and know what they're supposed to do. So I think that's one area that could be followed up on. And then there was also something around a manager area. One of our speakers actually brought that up, where he was kind of talking about some of the people he worked with have trouble understanding what they need to do when they enter GitLab, what kind of activity they should follow up on, who they need to approve things for. And so I think that ties into some of the concepts we have coming up around things like spaces and teams and knowing exactly what's going on in the team and kind of visualizing what you need to do better. So I think opportunities in manage and plan relate to that more. And so there's a lot of different streams of feedback. So what we did is we followed up with some of the customers by email to try to schedule follow-up interviews with them. And then other customers were directly added to our research panel so that we could continue to gather feedback from them and connect them to product managers. So yeah, that's kind of what we have so far. Do you have any other questions related to that, Sid?
No, thanks.
Welcome.
Catherine, I actually have a question related to something you said, and I'll add my question afterwards. You mentioned that one of the first themes that came out of the feedback from the recent commit was around when they first get started using GitLab CI. Were those, and then later you mentioned in your answer that you were reaching out to those feedback from those users to follow up for more details. Has that already happened?
So to clarify, so it wasn't specifically GitLab CI in this case.
Oh, okay.
It's just kind of like a non-developer. For example, we were talking to someone who's more working in economics at the company. So how they can use GitLab for their purposes. And that ties into some of the work I've seen with the growth team around onboarding, guided tours, and kind of understanding where people need to get, what people are using GitLab for first.
Okay.
Yeah, so nothing specific for GitLab CI with this pool of people, but just reach out to Emily and Emily can help you get in contact with the right people.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Cool. So Mohammed, you've got the next question.
Yeah, I was just wondering how can basically community contribute to UX research team at GitLab? What people can do?
Yeah. So short answer, join First Look. We've got a link on one of our slides in our deck. That's our database where we go first to find people who can help us get answers to the questions that we have. It's a good place to start sending people to if they are very passionate about giving feedback. It allows us to be able to pull from that database anytime somebody wants to talk to somebody like themselves. And instead of just having a relationship with one researcher, they could actually talk to all of us plus the design and PM teams as well. So that would be where I would send them to sign up there. And it's a pretty easy form. I think 10 questions, nothing's very hard. So yeah.
A follow-on thought to that, which isn't exactly what you're asking for perhaps, but there's a community member that I've seen collecting issues related to a certain pain point that he has. And then he actually commented in one of my research issues like, hey, can you take a look at these issues and kind of look into it further? So that's also another way that you could help.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll voice my question. So I'm wondering how does the UX research team feel things like I know the team was very small only kind of a year or so ago. How do you feel things are changing in terms of what impact you're able to have on the company or changing the way we kind of make user-driven decisions? Do you have any thoughts on things we need to improve on still or things we've already improved on?
I've been here since June, so I was one of the people who added to the team. And when I was here, before I was here, it was Emily. Sorry, not Emily. Well, Emily was here, but not on our team. It was Sarah and Tali and Catherine, and then it was me. So now we were 4. And I think now we're up to 5 or 6 or 7 people.
7.
7. Yeah, see, it just keeps adding with Andre. Andre just started in January. What I've seen is the pervasiveness of UX research has increased. So it's not that the UX researchers themselves are doing a lot more research. We are doing more research, but it's not us that's causing it to be exponential. It's the partnering with design and product as well, who have also taken on the mantle of research to get answers to the questions that they've had with our guidance and our help, has really, really bloomed. That what I've seen since I started. When I started, they weren't really doing a lot of their own research. The research team was doing a lot of it. And now I know in my section, the CI/CD, I've got designers who have no problem picking up solution validation projects, and I've got product managers who are doing their best at problem validation research. Jackie just went from problem validation all the way to solution validation research with a little mentoring from myself, and she did an awesome job. She's one of our PMs in release. So that's what I've seen. Sarah, do you have any other things you want to add?
Yeah, I think that perfectly sums it up. So yeah, obviously the shifting of training designers and PMs, and it's great to see more research being produced and that being fed back into the product as well. I still think that we've got a way to go with it. I don't think it's perfect. I think like with any team that scales, we have to have the processes in place and the training in place to support people as well. So we're developing a lot of that material now. We spent the last OKR dedicated to creating training materials for people to look at. We've got videos and written content in the handbook. And we're going to be creating a new process for our next OKR, which is how to do a step-by-step research process for validating UX scorecards. So we'll just keep adding to that information. And obviously the feedback that we get from designers and product managers, they tell us where the gaps are in that training material as well. So we're constantly adding to it.
And something I'd personally like to see in terms of going forward, we get a lot of different sources of feedback, from customer calls, talks with prospects, our own research studies. It would be great if we could all have better visibility into what's going on different teams, because sometimes customers are having conversations related to different topics kind of with multiple PMs at a time or something like that. So I think if we kind of get a better handle on everything going on and everything we're learning, we'll actually find out that we know quite a lot. It might just be buried somewhere in Zendesk or Salesforce, and we can build from there rather than potentially sometimes going back to the beginning and learning from scratch.
Have you thought about a feature for GitLab that could facilitate some of that? I mean, a lot of this sometimes conversation with customers is happening over issues. Of course, yeah, you've got Salesforce, which makes it a bit trickier, but is there like tooling in GitLab that we should be adding, or an issue that you could write down to explain what you wanted to see, so you can see a consolidated user research, across, I don't know, GitLab in some way?
That's an interesting idea. Let's see. Well, I don't know the answer to this. I should, but I think one time I thought about this from a marketing perspective, where where I was thinking, we have kind of demographics of our user base in that sense, and then we also have the demographics we're collecting when we do user research. So combining those two in some way, maybe in the handbook, but I never thought of directly in GitLab. So thank you. That's a good idea.
And obviously we've used GitLab for our insights repository as well. So we do have some feedback now. We've been using it for quite a while now, but a good perhaps 6-7 months. I think that's right, isn't it, Catherine? So I think, and now we've had more researchers, we've had designers and PMs contributing insights into that. We have found some problems along the way. So we do have a ton of feedback for the product team about how we could make GitLab better for researchers as well, or people just doing research.
And I have to say, in the research community, the wider research community in the world, people are trying to solve this issue constantly. Everybody has a lot of data. They don't know how to get it back out of people's heads, because that's where it's stored usually, unless you work here and we have a repo. So I've been asked a lot of times, like, how do we store insights? How do you get them back out in a way that's manageable? So if we could make those improvements and crack that nut. That's even another big user base that we could pull from as well for GitLab. What other questions do you guys have today? Well, like I mentioned earlier, we have a new team member that started in January earlier this month, Andre. He's there with the medal behind him. He's in a library in his town. He is joining us from, Andre, what is your town that you live in outside of Prague?
Hello everyone. I live in Brno, so it's the second biggest city of Czech Republic. I'm very excited that we will all meet, or at least many of us hopefully will meet here in this country, in Prague. So
yes,
yeah, looking forward a lot.
Yes, it's a short journey for you, I'm sure, from Brno. Yeah, so Andre is going to be working in the ops team. So he's already getting ramped up to help all of those PMs, Amelia and Nadia, the two designers as well over there. So welcome, Andre, to the team. We're excited and happy to have you. I think with Andre's joining, we now have one researcher per stage group, I think.
Does that soon?
Yeah,
section.
section, sorry, stage group section, categories. Yeah, so it's good. All right. What else you guys got? I'm of course a researcher, so I'm counting in my head like to 10 before I call it. All right. Well, if you guys don't have any other questions, thanks for joining. And the slide deck is in the agenda. And if you come up with anything else after the fact, put it in there and I'll take a look and answer it. Thanks. Bye.